Beneath the burning sand of the Kalahari, a shadow slips into a hole in the ground. A cobra, long and patient, pouring itself into the dark. And down there, in the same cool tunnels, 3 animals lie asleep, pressed side by side. A ground squirrel, a yellow mongoose, a meerkat. By every law of nature, they should be enemies. One digs, one hunts, one watches, and any of them could turn on the others in the dark. Yet here, under a single roof of sand, not one of them lifts a claw against its neighbor. They breathe the same air, they share the same walls, and when morning comes, they will climb out through the very same door, one after another, like a single family. Why does a hunter lie down to sleep beside the very creature it could kill? Why does the squirrel, who carved this home out of the earth with her own claws, let strangers move in beneath her feet? And what are the 3 of them guarding down there under 2 meters of scorched sand? To understand it, you cannot watch them for only a moment. You have to follow them through 1 full day in the desert. A single day, from the first cold light to the fall of night, that will test everything holding this strange home together. It begins before the sun. The Kalahari at dawn is not warm. The night has pulled every scrap of heat out of the sand, and the cold has sunk deep into the earth. Nothing moves on the surface. Then, at the mouth of one burrow, a small head appears, a meerkat, the scout. He does not rush out. He freezes, half in shadow, only his eyes moving, and he listens. He sniffs the air. He turns his head slowly, reading the grass, the horizon, the pale sky. Only when he is certain that nothing is waiting does he give the others a soft, short sound. All clear. It is a small sound, almost nothing, but on it, the whole morning depends. And out of that same entrance, one after another, they come. The meerkats first, blinking, stretching, rising onto their hind legs. They turn to face the low sun and offer it the dark skin of their bellies, where the fur grows thin, soaking up the first warmth after the freezing night. Behind them, the ground squirrel climbs into the light, unrolls her broad tail, and lifts it over her back. And last, the yellow mongoose slides out, low and quiet, and at once melts away into the dry grass on business of his own. No one lunges, no one fights for the door. 3 families that spent the night under one roof scatter across the plot as calmly as if it had always been this way. To understand why, you have to understand what waits for them above the ground. By day, this desert turns into an anvil. The sand grows so hot that nothing can stand on it, and at the height of the afternoon, the surface climbs past 50 degrees. There is almost no shade. And when night returns, the same plain cools so hard and so fast that it is as though someone has switched off the sun. And in winter, the cold bites down into the bone. Between these 2 extremes, there is no rest. On the surface, life is a punishment for everyone, without exception. That is why the real Kalahari hides not above the ground, but below it. Down in the tunnels, the temperature holds steady around the clock, while overhead, everything burns or freezes. Whoever owns a good home underground survives. Whoever does not, sooner or later, becomes somebody's supper. And yet, the food is up top. Seeds, roots, beetles, scorpions, anything that can be dug or caught. And only while it is light. So every single morning, someone has to step out onto that burning stage, in full view, out where dozens of hungry eyes are already watching. The only question that matters is who will see the danger first. The home itself is the reason any of this is possible, and it did not build itself. A true Kalahari burrow is not a little hole. It is an underground city. Dozens of entrances scattered across the plot, forks and spare corridors, so that if a snake slips into one passage, there is always another way out. Separate chambers for sleeping, small blind nooks for the young, side tunnels to dart into at the last instant. a whole network that cannot be dug in a day and can hardly be held alone. And the one who took on that work knew it well. The first tenant of this home is the Cape ground squirrel, and she is its chief architect. Her front paws carry long, curved claws that work like little shovels. In a single morning, she throws out many times her own weight in sand. She digs without tiring, widening old passages, breaking through new ones, joining chamber to chamber. A city like this is not built in one season, but over years, passed from one generation to the next, until no one can say who first dug the farthest corridor. And she has one feature that makes her impossible to mistake: her tail, broad and bushy, which she carries like a parasol. At the peak of the heat, she raises it over her back and works on inside her own shadow, out in the open, in the very worst of the day, when every other living thing has long since gone below. But an empty home in the desert does not stay empty for long. Nearby, a second tenant is already watching: the yellow mongoose. Slender, reddish, with a sharp muzzle and dark, attentive eyes. He can dig too, but his real strength lies elsewhere, in his nose. His sense of smell is so fine that he finds a beetle grub buried under a layer of sand, prey the squirrel would pass over without a clue. He widens the passages of others, cleans them, drags rubbish and scraps up to the surface, and keeps the shared home in order, almost without meaning to. Yet his true value as a neighbor is something else. He is not afraid of the thing the others dread to death: snakes. Cape cobras and puff adders that pour into the cool of the tunnels to escape the daytime furnace. For the squirrel, such a visitor means death. For the meerkats, it is a threat to their pups, small enough to be swallowed whole. A single snake deep in a corridor can quietly take a whole litter, one after another, while up above, no one suspects a thing. This is exactly why the mongoose changes everything. To venom, he is far more resistant than any other dweller of the burrow. Meeting an intruder in the dark, he does not flee, he gives battle. He is smaller than the cobra, but faster and far more stubborn. He circles, slips aside from the strike, and presses straight back in. He is a living guard, patrolling the corridors and clearing out the one thing that could destroy them all. For that alone, the squirrel will put up with him. And then the last of the three arrives, and with it, the real heart of this story: the meerkat. That creature which stands upright on its hind legs, front paws folded to its chest, and stares off into the distance. Meerkats come to a ready-made underground city, and they bring with them the one thing neither the squirrel nor the mongoose ever had: discipline. The watch. In a meerkat clan, there is always a sentry. While the rest dig and root through the sand for scorpions and beetles, one climbs to the highest point, a mound, a bush, an old termite hill, rises to full height and, without ever looking away, scans the sky and the horizon. He does not eat. He does not rest. His single task is to see death coming before anyone else does. And this watch never sleeps, because the meerkats relieve one another at the post in turn, hour after hour, so that the plot is almost never left without a pair of eyes turned upward. More than that, they have a whole language of alarm. One call means danger on the ground, a snake or a jackal, and the clan draws tighter, ready to stand and fight. Another, sharp and clipped, means a threat from the sky, and then the only escape is straight down into the earth. The sentry does not merely raise the alarm. He tells the others exactly where death will come from. Now put all of it together. The squirrel, who builds and extends the city. The mongoose, who scents out the snakes and drives them from the depths. The meerkats, who guard the sky and hold the language of alarm. 3 species, each with its own trade, all living under one roof. What comes of it is not a chance crowd, but something close to a well-tuned machine, where everyone has a task and everyone has a shift. The sun climbs higher, and the plot comes fully to life. The meerkats fan out across the ground, push their noses into the sand, turn over pebbles, dig out grubs, and every so often, one of them straightens up, checks the horizon, and drops back to the earth. The ground squirrel gnaws at roots and seeds, never straying far from the saving entrances. The mongoose steals along the line of the bushes, reading invisible trails with his nose. Each is busy with its own. They hunt different prey, so there is little to divide, and for a while, the morning is nothing but the small, ordinary work of staying alive. But peace in the Kalahari is always short. High in the sky, there where the squirrel and the mongoose almost never look, a shadow appears, broad wings, a slow, silent glide in a wide circle. This is the martial eagle, one of the most dangerous hunters of these parts, a bird that can fold its wings and fall like a stone from a great height and carry off a full-grown animal. It circles without a sound. From below, it is almost impossible to notice in time. Almost. Because there, on the mound, stands the sentry, and he is looking exactly where no one else is. He sees the shadow before any of them, and in the very same second, the silence is torn by a sharp, clipped cry, the special signal that means danger from the sky. What happens next takes only an instant. Everyone runs for the burrow. And here the whole meaning of the alliance is laid bare, because it is not only the meerkats who race for the saving entrances. The ground squirrels fly there too, like loosed arrows. The mongoose dives in with them. The single cry of one sentry has thrown 3 species onto their feet at once. In a heartbeat, the surface empties, as though no one had ever been there, and the eagle sweeps low over the bare, deserted sand with nothing in its talons. For a few breaths, nothing stirs at all. Then, from the safety of the dark, a single head lifts at an entrance, checking, waiting, before the plot slowly dares to come back to life. And the eagle is not the only danger from the air. Over these same plots there often waits the pale chanting goshawk, a smaller hunter that has learned to shadow the colonies in its own way, perched on a dry tree, ready to snatch a lizard or a fat insect the moment a mongoose or a squirrel flushes it from the ground. But the very sharpness of eye that hunts out a meal betrays the goshawk the moment it drops into its dive. The sentry catches the movement, and once again the alarm rings out, and once again the plot empties before the strike can land. And here it is, the answer that all of this has been leading toward. The meerkat does not guard the sky out of kindness. The squirrel did not build this home out of generosity. It is colder and cleverer than that. Every extra animal at the burrow is an extra pair of eyes, an extra nose, another sentry standing watch. The more tenants, the sooner danger is spotted, the greater the chance that the warning goes up in time, and the smaller the odds that it is you the talons find. 3 species that look in 3 different directions, the ground, the air, and the dark of the tunnels, together close off almost every road by which death can arrive. Alone, each of them is blind on one side. Together, they see everything. This is not friendship. It is the plain arithmetic of survival, and it works without fail. By now the heat has become unbearable. The sand shimmers. The air itself seems to bend, and one by one, the tenants withdraw. Life goes back underground, into the cool of the tunnels. There, deep below, the 3 species wait out the worst of the furnace, each in its own nook, but under one roof, breathing the same steady air that their shared home has kept safe. Above them, the desert burns on, empty and silent. Not a single track breaks the surface, as if the land itself were holding still until the worst of the day is past. But the day is not finished with them. The afternoon drags on. The eagle has long since vanished beyond the horizon, and life at the burrow begins to settle. And it is exactly then, close to the ground, among the dry stems, that a new trouble comes creeping toward the plot. Low, soundless, gliding. For more often than not, in this desert, death arrives not from above, but from the side, along the sand. A Cape cobra, one of the most venomous snakes in all of Africa, is moving toward the entrances, drawn by the cool and by the scent of someone else's young. And once more, the first to notice it is not the one with the most to lose. On the mound, the sentry lowers its gaze from the sky to the ground and changes the cry. This is a different signal now. Danger below. And the whole reaction of the clan changes with it. No one dives for the burrow, because the burrow is exactly where the enemy is heading. Instead, the meerkats bunch into a tight knot, stretch to full height, hiss, and lean forward all together, one solid wall, trying to look larger and more terrible than they are. The ground squirrels fluff out their tails and press in beside them, swelling the living crowd. And out of the shadow of a corridor, to meet the snake, comes the one for whose sake the squirrel ever tolerated a neighbor at all. The yellow mongoose. He does not throw himself in blindly. He waits. He reads the cobra, watches the sway of the hood, and when the strike finally comes, he steps aside at the last possible instant and presses straight back in. For a long moment, it is only the two of them, the snake and the small, stubborn shape that will not give ground, circling in the dust while the whole home holds its breath. The cobra rears, spreads its hood, sways, tries again, but in front of it now is not a lone, frightened victim. It is a whole home, risen as one. Against that wall, where the mongoose holds the front, and the meerkats and squirrels crowd in with their numbers, the snake has nothing to win. Sooner or later, it tires of the fruitless siege, lowers its hood, and turns away across the sand to look for easier prey. The home has held. And once again, not because any single one of them proved the strongest, but because there were many of them, and each knew its place. After the cobra is gone, the sentry keeps watch a while longer, its eyes moving now to the grass, now to the sky. Then it trades the alarm for another sound, low and easy. All clear. And one by one, the tenants return to the work that was broken off. The squirrel goes back to her roots. The mongoose picks up his trails. The meerkats bend again to their scorpions. Everything carries on from exactly the point where it stopped, as if nothing had happened at all. And yet, this alliance has another side, and it is only honest to say so. It rests on no treaty and on no affection. It rests on cold calculation, made over again every single day. That same yellow mongoose, the defender against snakes, could, given the chance, ruin a clutch of eggs or take a helpless pup. Quarrels do flare between the neighbors. One steals another's catch. One drives another off from an entrance. One takes a nook that is not his. There is no love down there. But as long as the desert outside stays more dangerous than the neighbor at your side, all three of them find it more worthwhile to put up with one another than to go to war. And the moment the threat draws back, every small feud is simply put off until better times. This is an alliance not of love, but of need. And that is exactly what makes it so strong. Toward evening, when the sand at last begins to cool, the whole underground city comes out one more time to eat its fill before dark, before the night cold returns and the creatures of the dusk come out to hunt. And so it goes, day after day. The squirrel mends and extends the home. The mongoose keeps the corridors clear of snakes. The meerkats guard the sky and the ground, and patiently teach it all to their young. New litters are born. Old tenants give way to the young ones. But the underground city itself remains, and with it, the habit of living three species as one. Three animals that nature never meant to place together choose, every single morning, the very same thing: to stay under one roof. In the Kalahari, it is not the strongest that survives. There are no fangs here, no claws that could save you alone under this sky, where an eagle waits above and a cobra creeps up from below. Here, the one who lives is the one who understood in time a simple and almost uncomfortable truth. Sometimes your most reliable guard is the very one you were used to thinking of as a stranger. And the sturdiest home in the desert is not the one you dug for yourself, but the one that a creature with not a single reason to trust you agreed, in the end, to share. Night falls over the Kalahari. Below the sand, in the dark and the quiet, three animals that should have been enemies settle down together and choose, once again, to stay.